All right, took long enough. President Biden finally acknowledging his 7th grandchild does exist. Joe Biden saying in a statement to People magazine, quote, "Our son Hunter and Navy's mother, London, are working together to foster a relationship that is in the best interests of their daughter, preserving her privacy as much as possible going forward." Went on to say this is not a political issue, it's a family matter. Jill and I only want what is best for all of our grandchildren, including Navy. Now, that is a noticeable change from what the president said in the past.
So my name is Jill, and this is my husband, Joe. And your children may not know, but we have 3 children, and we have 6 grandchildren.
I have 6 grandchildren, and I'm crazy about them. I speak to them every single day. Not a joke. So guess what? They're crazy about me because I pay so much attention to them.
I wanted to ask about the trial going on in Arkansas with Hunter Biden and the child support. Are the president and First Lady monitoring that? And how come they haven't acknowledged the 7th grandchild?
I'm not going to speak to that from here.
Well, you know who will?
Who?
Gutfeld. He is furiously scribbling over here as this is something that, listen, there's been a lot of media attention and mainstream media attention that has said, Mr.
It's very disappointing because that means one of my whataboutisms will have to be eliminated. But
why do you just add this to the list?
Do you think? No. Shannon, you don't understand. I have to do actual work now. Do you think they tricked the president by saying, "Do you know you have a Navy?" Which leads me to my next point. They said, including Navy. They didn't say Navy Biden.
She didn't get the last name.
She didn't get the last name. Now, her mother was on the payroll for Hunter, but she still has been rejected the last name. And that shouldn't require more shaming by wholesome, moral individuals like me. Maybe perhaps Joe's happy. It's another head to sniff. I don't know. Just no showering. But it's amazing. People magazine beat the White House press corps, right? They beat all the hard press. Why is that? It's because the White House chose that for a reason. This is all manipulated, right? I see right through this. But I'm happy for the kid. Kid's got a grandfather who's a president. He doesn't even know that.
Well, recent piece, I think it was an extensive piece. I can't remember if it's the Times or the Washington Post that talked about the fact that she knows who her grandfather is. And so she's had an awareness of this. But Jesse, this has run counter to his persona as a very grandfatherly, caring guy. And he does talk about the kids and how much he loves them and talks to them all the time. This became a problem for them.
I'm not giving this guy any credit.
We did it.
Person is 4 years old. It's not like, oh, a month ago this happened. This is a 4-year-old girl. He has waited 4 years to acknowledge her existence. So it's too late. This son is tacky. He's sleazy, Hunter. He ran away and hid from this paternity test. Mm-hmm. He was on the lam with Secret Service protection in Malibu trying to dodge being served. And then all of a sudden she's not allowed to take the last name and he's giving her a few paintings. So I'm not buying this for a second. They pulled this. This is hurting Joe Biden's brand. He's not the family man we think he is, right? Because what kind of middle-class guy has shell companies and offshore bank accounts? What kind of average Joe has cocaine lying around? This guy is so callous, he didn't care when all these pipeline workers were laid off. He doesn't care about the border states or crime victims. He really doesn't care about much. He cares about himself. So this was from pressure, from polling, and now they kind of place it in a tabloid on a Friday. Come on. We see what this is.
Well, and part of the pressure came from the New York Times, this Maureen Dowd piece, Harold, that she wrote saying it's 7 grandkids, Mr. President. And she ends with this: the president's cold shoulder and heart is counter to every message he has sent for decades. And if it's out of sync with the American he wants to continue to lead. So when the New York Times starts calling him out on this, I don't know where else the White House had to go.
I think that piece you just mentioned was a big one. We've talked about it. Others have talked about it as well. But I differ a little bit. I root for people, and I'm happy. Whatever forced him to come around, whatever. I do agree it's a family matter, but politics plays a role because he is the president. So I give them credit for that. And I hope that the statement that they do what's in the best interest of Navy, and they mention, they even mentioned Navy's mom's name in the statement, which is the
well, then they have to cut her into the Chinese money now. She has to get the wires now.
Well, Kennedy, I mean,
on that note,
But it was that he constantly said my 6 grandchildren. It was almost as if he wanted to make a point. We are not recognizing this child, or at least he didn't.
Well, and you know, members of the administration were told the exact same thing. And they were scolded, and their MO has been clear the entire time. You only talk about your 6 grandkids. This is so well documented. This is so harmful for this young girl. And I'm going to take an even more cynical look at this than Jesse, if you can believe that.
Okay. No.
I think that
Can't
this is just a way to distract from a horrible week for their family.
Yep.
This was not just a bad week for Hunter. This was an awful week for the president, who also has a looming closed-door testimony from Hunter's former best friend, Devin Archer. That's happening with the House Oversight Committee on Monday. And he supposedly is going to testify that the big guy was very much in on it. And when he wasn't there in person, hobnobbing with some of these billionaires that Hunter was trying to milk and grift, that he was doing it on speakerphone 24 times. So yes, this is it is only about optics, because if he cared about the little girl at all, there are ways of having private conversations and connections. And there are family courts and there are lawyers who would happily, helpfully facilitate with that. And they have never taken the opportunity to do that. So this is very thin. I think the president is in real trouble. And this is he's just trying to salvage his very damaged reputation.
And with that, coming up, the Queen of Chaos tells Greg about her many mugshots. That and more in the fastest.